welcome to Raccoon Tale. I hope you enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. The searing agony in the lower half of my body vanished in an instant. The familiar yet distant thud of horse hooves rang in my ears. I had returned to the horse grounds, the very place where, in my previous life, I had labored as a horse trainer's servant. I glanced around and noticed a scene I had completely overlooked before. A young woman with refined, elegant features stood there, her eyes brimming with unshed tears and her face set in stubborn defiance. She drove the needle clutched in her hand viciously into the horse's belly. Her movements were so brutal and swift that I had no chance to cry out and stop her. The massive beast let out a pained shriek, reared up on its hind legs, and bolted away from her in terror. The young masters and young misses scattered in panic. Only one man pushed against the crowd, rushing straight toward the woman. How? Don't be afraid. I'm here to save you. In my last life, I was left half crippled from saving him, and from on I could no longer walk like an ordinary person. Only later, when a matchmaker arrived at my door with a grand procession, did I learn the truth. He was none other than Sun Feng, the newly appointed third-place laureate personally selected by His Majesty. To show their gratitude, the Sun family redeemed my indenture contract from the horse grounds, and Sun Feng even sought an imperial decree to marry me as his lawful wife. When he came to ask for my hand, he knelt before me and solemnly declared, "Han Yao, you saved my life. From this day forward, I will respect you, protect you, and grant you a lifetime of peace and prosperity in return." The entire capital sang his praises, calling him a man of noble character and profound righteousness. Only I knew the truth. After our marriage, he spent a fortune on a rare pomegranate, red headpiece just to coax a smile from the young miss who truly held his heart. I painstakingly learned to make Su Nioa honey sweets that he loved. After eating them, he would light up, then pick up the food box and head straight for the Prime Minister's manor. I rose before dawn each day to cook, patiently kneading cane syrup and honey into tiny jasmine-shaped blossoms. I toiled for hours without a single grain of rice in my own stomach, only for him to snatch the food and stride off to knock on another woman's door. I endured it all in silence. I knew he had married me only out of gratitude, so I never dared hope for love, only that we might live with mutual courtesy, at least until the day I went into labor. Sun Feng gripped my chin and forced a bowl of bitter medicine down my throat, leaving my entire body limp and powerless. If not for you, I could have saved Hao. She would never have had to ruin her face or spend her days in misery. She could have spent a lifetime with me as my confidante and kindred spirit. Everything is your fault. You meddled where you didn't belong and ruined everything by saving me. Only then did I realize how deeply he hated me. Heaven had taken pity on me and granted me a second chance at life. A horse suddenly charged past Sun Feng, nearly knocking him over. He hesitated, scanning the crowd as if searching for help. I pretended to be frantic with worry and dashed into the training grounds, only to be, accidentally, kicked by a horse and sent flying. A long, bloody gash tore open across my leg. In my feigned daze, I heard footsteps rushing toward me and calmly closed my eyes, pretending to faint. If Sun Feng wants to play the hero, let him. A familiar voice roared from nearby. You useless wretches. What are you good for if my son ends up injured and unconscious? Every last one of you deserves to be beaten to death with the staff. Who was on duty at the horse grounds today? I'm going to strangle the worthless dog responsible. The short, fierce figure bearing her teeth and claws was none other than Sun Feng's mother. When she saw the gruesome wound on my leg, her stream of curses faltered for a split second. Madam Sun had always believed that for a low-born girl from the horse grounds like me, barely able to work, perhaps not even able to bear children, being allowed to marry her prized son was a blessing as vast as heaven itself. She had wanted Sun Feng to cast me off and marry a proper noble lady instead, but he refused. So she spent every day devising new ways to torment me. Sometimes I couldn't bear it, and would softly beg Sun Feng for mercy. He would only sigh and say, "Han Yao, look at yourself now." My mother's dissatisfaction is only natural. She raised me alone through countless hardships. Can't you endure a little for my sake? I had never asked to enter the Sun household. I had been dragged here against my will, yet I had poured my heart and soul into every duty within my power. Why, then, was I forced to swallow endless humiliation? I pushed the bitter memories aside. While Madam Sun stood stunned, I struggled to my feet, collapsed again, and crawled to her. "Madam, It's this servant's fault, entirely this servant's fault. That young master was risking his life to rush inside. I was so worried that I was careless and got injured. I failed to protect the young master. I am utterly useless. Madame Sun's face flushed crimson. She jabbed a thick finger at my forehead repeatedly. You filthy little slave. You couldn't bear to see noble ladies and young masters living better lives than the likes of you, so you deliberately tried to harm them. Deliberately tried to harm my son. I knew this whole commotion at the horse grounds was caused by you worthless servants. You're jealous of our good fortune and want to drag us down with you. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The horse arena had never seen such an incident before. Today was truly strange. Who knew what had triggered it? Madame Sun was about to continue her tirade when a doctor hurried over from outside and reported, "The injury on young Master Sun's face is superficial. With proper treatment, it should not leave a scar, nothing to worry about. The real problem is his right hand. It appears the horse trampled it more than once. Restoring it to its former state will be nearly impossible." Madame Sun immediately forgot about me and hurried to the side room in a panic. Soon afterward, her heart-wrenching wails filled the air. "My son, my poor, ill-fated boy, your writing hand is ruined. What are we going to do now?" Her cries were so tragic that, had I not heard the next part, I might have thought Sun Feng had already passed away in the next room. To drown out his mother's sobbing, Sun Feng raised his voice. "Mother, please stop crying." Though my hand was injured, I managed to save Hao. I charged in without regard for my own life. She will surely be grateful. Even if she isn't, I did it willingly. Mother, it was all my choice. Madame Sun shrieked even louder, her voice suddenly muffled as if someone had clamped a hand over her mouth. The Prime Minister's manor has 2 young misses. One legitimate daughter and one concubine, born daughter. Everyone in the capital understands what that means the moment the names are spoken. So that was it. For 2 lifetimes, Sun Feng had poured all his scheming heart into winning over Chen Hao, the Prime Minister's eldest concubine, born daughter, the very woman who had stabbed the horse's belly and triggered the chaos today. Yet I remembered clearly that, amid the panic, she had stood motionless, staring fixedly in another direction, stubbornly waiting for someone else. Sun Feng was not the person she had been hoping for. One of the maids nearby overheard the mother and son's argument and whispered, "Shen Hao. Isn't she the Prime Minister's concubine, born eldest daughter? Wasn't there talk that things between her and the Crown Prince were never properly cut off? Today there are too many important people present. We must speak carefully." I suddenly recalled a rumor from my previous life. On the very day Sun Feng and I completed our wedding ceremony, an imperial decree had named the only daughter of General Zhengying as the Crown Prince's consort. Chen Hao's position had always been precarious. She had probably hoped to secure a legitimate future for herself. When the Crown Prince's grand wedding dashed all her years of effort, she had hanged herself in despair. Sun Feng, in his self-indulgent foolishness, assumed she had killed herself out of heartbreak over his marriage. A man of humble origins like Sun Feng had never truly caught Chen Hao's eye. At most, his handsome face as the third-place laureate had earned him a second glance from the Prime Minister's daughter. Today at the horse grounds, I suspected the Crown Prince himself had been present. Chen Hao had gambled her entire standing in his heart, wagering the lives of everyone there without hesitation. Truly shallow, and utterly vicious. It didn't matter. In my last life my kind-hearted attempt to save Sun Feng had only brought disaster upon myself. In this life, I wanted nothing more to do with any of those powerful figures. Prime Minister Chen, wishing to show his regard for talent, allowed his daughter to visit the Sun residence frequently to express her gratitude. Behind Chen Hao trailed a long procession of maids who made a grand show of waiting outside the gates like a living exhibition before sending a servant with a clear, loud voice to knock. "Young Master Sun, old madam, the young miss of the Chen family has come to pay a visit." The clamor was identical to the enthusiastic welcome Sun Feng had once given me in the name of repaying a debt. Chen Hao's beauty was among the most celebrated in the capital. Back when Sun Feng was still a poor scholar, he had quarreled with a bookstore owner over payment. Chen Hao happened to pass by. Invoking her status as the Prime Minister's daughter, she ordered the shopkeeper to pay him in full. From that moment, Sun Feng's dreams had been haunted by her. Only at the very end of my previous life had I learned the truth. During the horse grounds incident, Chen Hao had been injured on the face and left with a deep scar. Sun Feng had been turned away every time he tried to visit. No one ever told him about her secret affair with the crown prince, so he blamed me entirely for costing him his beloved. Now his right hand was beyond repair. In the future he would struggle even to hold a bowl or chopsticks, let alone sit for hours writing or painting. Yet for a man who had the woman he loved by his side every day, sacrificing an arm was probably a small price. As for the wound on my own leg, though it looked horrifying, it was not truly debilitating. Within a few days I would be able to walk the streets again. I gathered nearly all my savings, redeemed my indenture contract from the horse grounds, and headed alone to Wanji Hall in the capital. I never expected Madam's son to track me down and cause another scene. Wanji Hall was a wondrous place, home to countless divine physicians with miraculous skills. Most importantly, they never charged a single coin from impoverished commoners who came for treatment. In my previous life, after marrying into the Sun family, I had once sent a maid to Wanji Hall to request a consultation. I wanted to know whether I could still bear children. I had thought that since Sun Feng had agreed to marry me, he would at least ensure I never lacked food or clothing for the rest of my days. I no longer had any special talents. If I could give him a child, I would at least fulfill my duty as a wife. The invited physician took one look at me and understood everything. Even though I was not truly destitute, Wanji Hall still waived the consultation fee. Only then did Madam's son reluctantly allow the treatment. The female doctor examined my injury carefully and said, "Miss, your body has suffered no lasting damage. However, if you wish to ensure safe and successful childbirth in the future, you will need acupuncture once every other day." Day after day, I grew close to her. During our conversations she learned how I had been wounded. After listening, she fell silent for a long time before asking, "You used to be a horse groom. Do you know anything about veterinary medicine?" I answered, "The work at the horse grounds is complicated." Naturally I picked up some knowledge. She replied that although treating animals and humans were very different, veterinary practice required broader learning, and the two fields shared principles that could illuminate each other. A veterinarian who wished to study human medicine would find it far easier than most beginners. At the time I had already given up all hope for myself. I merely nodded along, letting the fleeting dream flicker through my mind before dismissing the unspoken implication. Therefore, in this life, I intended to chase that tiny spark of ambition I had once let slip away. I wanted to save as many lives as possible, lives still struggling in pain. Even if only a single thread of hope remained, I would help them unravel their suffering bit by bit and bring it into the sunlight. I believed that would be the best repayment for all the bitterness I had endured in my previous existence. On my way to Wanji Hall I stopped at a pawnshop and exchanged a few pieces of jewelry for silver. Passing a silver shop, I spotted Chen Hao pointing at the storefront while speaking to Sun Feng beside her. "This shop is part of the dowry my mother prepared for me. Brother Feng, since your hand may never recover, why not come here and keep the accounts? I'll ask the manager to assign you an assistant scribe so you won't have to strain yourself too much." I couldn't help letting out a soft laugh. By convention, a third-place laureate like him could at least secure a 7th-rank appointment in the Hanlin Academy. A young miss from the Prime Minister's household had countless ways to repay a favor, yet she had chosen to make Sun Feng sit at an abacus. She simply wanted to show the world, at the lowest possible cost, that she was not an ungrateful person. If Sun Feng spent one day sitting in the counting loft, the whole capital would praise the Chen family's eldest concubine, born daughter, for her sense of duty and gratitude. Just as in my previous life, when he had chosen to marry me, it was like handing over gold and silver only to raise a wife who could never leave the house. He had clearly calculated the gains and losses. Truly, he seemed destined to spend his life working an abacus. Chen Hao's indifference towards Sun Feng was plain on her face, yet the lovesick fool noticed nothing. "No, how could I let you lose face in public like this? Don't worry. I am the third-place laureate personally chosen by His Majesty. I will rely on my own abilities to let you live well." Impatience had already crept across Chen Hao's features, but he remained oblivious. With that stubborn, straightforward personality of his, without his exceptional looks and the title of third-place laureate, he would never have stood a chance. In his current state, hoping to find a decent position through his own merit would only make things even harder. Wanji Hall provided room and board, but it was no place for idlers. Any apprentice deemed lacking in talent was politely asked to leave without mercy. Every student admitted to Wanji Hall had to study at least 12 hours with their master each day. They rose before dawn to memorize text, ate a hurried breakfast, and then completed their assigned tasks, sometimes identifying medicinal herbs, sometimes accompanying their teacher on house calls. They rushed from east to west, toiling from morning to night, often too busy even to drink a sip of water. Because Wanji Hall's iron rule was to treat the poor without charging consultation fees, most patients truly had empty pockets. The hall itself earned little, so most apprentices aimed to finish their studies, leave, and make a living as ordinary physicians, traveling as wandering healers or opening their own clinics and pharmacies. Those willing to stay long-term were either like me, carrying a private obsession they could not speak of, or people like Mei Lin, who came from a wealthy mountain family, possessed an innate talent for recognizing hundreds of herbs, and had been allowed to enter the city and study deeper simply because her family had no shortage of labor. Mei Lin had followed her master for many years and now oversaw all medicinal herb purchases for Wanji Hall. Beyond her sharp eye for quality, her tongue was equally formidable. One day, Madame Sun somehow learned of my whereabouts and stormed to the gates of Wanji Hall. She stood in the cold, cursing at the top of her lungs. That horse, groom girl Han Yao reeks of manure. Letting her treat patients, don't you people find it filthy? The other day she saw my son in danger and refused to save him. She has no conscience. She'll kill every last one of you. Mei Lin and I had been drying herbs. Hearing the commotion, she rolled up her sleeves and marched outside. Oh my, isn't this the mother of that famous third-place laureate? Your son is so talented and refined. How did he end up with such a crude mother? Aren't you embarrassed on his behalf? Haven't you been busy at home these past few days teaching his future wife? You've been spreading rumors that because my son saved her, they had physical contact and she is no longer pure. From now on she'll live as a Sun family woman, die as a Sun family ghost, and bear at least 3 children for you. What's wrong? Did the future daughter-in-law run away, so today you came here to stir up trouble instead? You clearly don't know where you are. While speaking, Mei Lin waved her hand. Several young medicine apprentices immediately grabbed brooms and chased Madame Sun several yards away from the entrance of Wanji Hall. Mei Lin returned triumphantly. I poured her a cup of tea and praised, "Your tongue is truly sharp. And your information even sharper." She drained the cup in one gulp. That Madame Sun has tormented the Chen family's eldest daughter so much that she no longer dares set foot here. Her own son scolds her at home, yet she can't bear to vent her anger on her precious flesh and blood. After thinking it over, the only soft persimmon she can squeeze is you. If she dares come again, I'll keep scolding her. If I'm not here, just tell the 2 little apprentices to chase her off. We're not afraid of her. I nodded. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, someone had stood up for me. My heart suddenly felt tight with emotion. But tell me honestly, she asked, do you regret it? Regret what? Regret not saving that 3rd-place laureate that day. If you had been the one to rescue him, you might be an official's wife by now. I smiled faintly. You have your own wisdom. Being trapped inside the inner courtyard has never been what I wanted. What I'm doing now is exactly what will ensure I never have regrets in the future. The weather grew increasingly sultry. After several heavy rains, an epidemic broke out in the suburbs and gradually spread into the city. I followed my master everywhere treating patients. One day at a porridge distribution station in the city, I saw Chen Hao standing shoulder to shoulder with a tall man. My master said, "That is the Crown Prince. He specially requested an imperial decree to participate in the relief efforts himself." The 2 of them exchanged intimate glances and lingering looks. Anyone with eyes could see the truth. Yet out of fear of the Eastern Palace and the Prime Minister's manner, no one dared mention it in front of Sun Feng. Speaking of Sun Feng, Mei Lin had once told me that he had found work copying ledgers for a shop. The manager, pitying his situation, had offered generous pay and made no demands on speed or quantity. For some unknown reason, one day the manager changed his mind. After much hesitation, Sun Feng ultimately swallowed his pride and entered Chen Hao's silver shop as a nominal bookkeeper, his injured hand forcing him to keep a scribe to do the actual writing. That scribe, jealous that Sun Feng earned the same wage as a full accountant just for clicking the abacus, grew lazy on purpose. To avoid embarrassing Chen Hao, Sun Feng ended up compensating for the work himself. The strain worsened the injury to his hand, and the physical and mental torment only made him crave Chen Hao's companionship even more desperately. But Chen Hao was busy using the porridge distribution as an excuse to cultivate her relationship with the Crown Prince. After suffering enough humiliation from Madame Sun, why would she spare him another glance? When his first month's salary arrived, Sun Feng spent more than half of it on an exquisite crystal hairpin. He lifted it like a treasure and presented it to the woman in his heart. To his surprise, Chen Hao treated him as if he were invisible. She snapped, "Don't block the way," and shoved him aside. His weakened hand had no strength, the hairpin fell and shattered into glittering fragments on the ground. Finally, he could no longer hold back his anger. "Chen Hao, I saved your life. I have been devoted to you with all my heart. Why do you despise me so?" Everyone around stopped working and turned to stare at the pair. The young miss of the Prime Minister's manor had never suffered such public humiliation. She immediately shouted back, "Saved my life. Haven't I already repaid you? Everyone knows I took care of you until you recovered and even found you the best medicine. The accounting job you have today was only given because the silver shop respects me. Otherwise, who would hire someone like you? What more do you want?" Sun Feng's face flushed scarlet. But we have feelings for each other. "You shouldn't." Chen Hao cut him off sharply. "Feelings? When did I ever agree to have feelings for you? My mother shouted at you, and you went outside spreading lies that ruined my reputation. I was already generous by not holding it against you. How dare you still bring it up? You came to save me of your own free will. I never begged you. Do you expect me to repay you with my entire life?" The onlookers whispered and gossiped, saying the third-place laureate was greedy and shameless despite his noble title. Unable to endure the mockery, Sun Feng fled in panic, tripped over something, and collapsed to the ground. When Mei Lin recounted the scene to me later, she sounded a little sorry for him. He fell and couldn't even crawl back up. No one helped him. It was quite pitiful to watch. I merely shook my head and said softly, "Do not impose on others what you yourself would not endure." During the epidemic, even the newest apprentices at Wanji Hall were run off their feet. I accompanied my master on rounds throughout the capital. Sometimes we could not return to the hall at night and simply laid out mats to sleep in the patients' homes. One day, my master and I had just finished fumigating ourselves with atractylodes and were preparing to rest when a little maid rushed in. "The old woman next door is vomiting nonstop. Please come quickly." My master was elderly, so I left him to rest and followed the maid alone. The moment I stepped outside and turned 2 corners, I saw a tall figure standing in the shadows. My heart sank. I knew something was wrong. I turned to leave, but the little maid behind me drew a dagger. "Miss, please wait a moment. His Highness the Crown Prince only wishes to speak with you." The Crown Prince stepped out of the darkness, the corners of his lips curving slightly. He lifted his folded fan, intending to tip up my chin. I took a step back, evading him. He did not grow angry, only smiled faintly. "Han Yao, correct. Among the new apprentices at Wanji Hall, you possess the highest aptitude and the greatest diligence. During this epidemic, you have given everything. The common people all praise you for your bodhisattva heart." I answered neither arrogantly nor humbly. Wanji Hall naturally places saving lives above all else. The Crown Prince took another step forward. The maid behind me pressed closer. I had nowhere left to retreat. "That Chen family maid can only pretend on the surface. She is nothing like you, Miss Han Yao, genuine inside and out, truly loved by the people. If you are willing to enter the Eastern Palace and continue your good deeds in my name, I can grant you the position of side consort. You will enjoy a lifetime of glory, wealth, peace, and noble leisure." The face before me gradually overlapped with Sun Feng's from my previous life. What a coincidence. He had once said the exact same words to me. "I will respect you, protect you, and grant you a lifetime of peace and glory in return." How grand they all sounded. Promising this woman everything, promising that woman everything, without ever asking whether we wanted it. As if without them we could never obtain those things ourselves. In my previous life I had once overheard Sun Feng discussing with his colleagues. The court's relief supplies were clearly enough to give every disaster victim an extra course, grain bun and a piece of mixed grain cake each day. Yet the porridge the Crown Prince distributed was so thin it was practically water. 1 bun for so many people, 1 piece of cake for so many people. How much silver did that add up to, and how many lives was it worth? Seeing that I remained silent for a long time, he grew even more interested. "Moreover, I know the Sun family has been harassing you constantly because of the horse grounds incident. The woman that Sun Boy adores only has eyes for me. If you stay by my side, I can bestow another favor upon you. I will make the entire Sun family grovel at your feet like dogs." Whatever humiliation they once made you suffer, I can let you repay them tenfold. What do you say? His voice was low and seductive, like the demon in legends who lures people into ruin. Unfortunately for him, I had long since made up my mind. I would no longer entangle myself in any external grudges. My goal was firm and singular. Your Highness, please forgive this commoner for having to refuse. His expression finally darkened. You are not afraid I will kill you right here? I answered calmly. Since my reputation has already reached your Highness's ears, it must be even more widespread among the people. If I die here or simply disappear, I fear the authorities would find it difficult not to investigate thoroughly. Your Highness is busy distributing porridge with your own hands. This commoner would not dare add further trouble for you. I was gambling. The Crown Prince had always preferred the pleasures of the inner palace, women, hounds, and fine horses. Why would he suddenly care about his public image? An image he had never bothered with before. Why would he risk catching the epidemic himself and insist on appearing in the streets, so everyone would know the Crown Prince was personally handing out porridge? I could not know the secrets of the imperial court, but I understood that anything out of the ordinary must have a reason. He had clearly encountered some difficulty and was forced to fight for every new card he could play. Sure enough, his face grew darker and darker, yet in the end he simply flicked his sleeve. I felt the pressure at my back disappear. Before leaving, he turned and said one last sentence to me. You will come to me. After much effort, the epidemic among the common people was finally brought under some control. Once the crisis passed, I returned to my former routine at Wanji Hall, advancing step by step in my studies. Everyone had witnessed how wholeheartedly I had thrown myself into the relief work. Gradually I became capable of handling cases on my own. One day, while I was drying medicinal herbs in the rear courtyard, Maylin slipped in with a mysterious air. There's a patient out front asking for you to examine him. I suspected nothing, packed my medicine chest neatly, and followed. The patient turned out to be Sun Feng. I had long since stopped caring about him, yet I still could not help freezing for a moment. The once elegant and handsome third-place laureate now had a deathly pale face, heavy dark circles under his eyes, and an overall aura of utter defeat. Gone was the dashing bearing that had once captivated the capital. Maylin shot me a wink. I understood at once that the girl wanted me to seize the chance to vent my anger. I sighed inwardly, said nothing more, set down the medicine chest, and began taking his pulse while asking about his symptoms. Sun Feng suddenly spoke. I remember you. You're the young miss who tried to save me at the horse grounds that day and ended up injured herself. Truly beautiful and kind-hearted. I felt a wave of nausea. Maylin snapped. This young master should know that she has been constantly insulted and harassed by your mother. Now that you are here, shouldn't you apologize on her behalf? Sun Feng stammered. I know this has nothing to do with the young miss. It's just that my mother and I have relied on each other since I was young. This time she acted rashly because she was thinking only of me. I cannot bear to blame her. I don't know what to say. No one understood better than I how obediently Madame Sun listened to her son. If Sun Feng had uttered a single word of disapproval, that old woman would never have dared defy him. The resentment was clearly his own. I examined his wound. It was obvious he had not used proper medicine, and had overexerted himself. Without careful treatment, the damage would soon affect all the meridians on the right side of his body. I calculated the course of treatment and the cost of the herbs, then stated the consultation fee. Sun Feng's expression changed instantly. He shot to his feet, face red, and shouted, Everyone says Wanji Hall exists to save lives and help the people. Why are you suddenly talking about consultation fees and vulgar money? I thought you were beautiful and kind-hearted, and I wanted to befriend you. Who would have thought you were so hypocritical? Wearing one face on the surface while hiding another underneath. I suspect even saving me that day was for some ulterior purpose. I nearly exploded with rage. So this was why he had come to Wanji Hall. He had not come to treat his illness at all. Realizing Chen Hao already had someone in her heart, he was merely looking for another way out. I looked at him and said, It is true that Wanji Hall treats the poor for free, but young Master Sun is clearly not at that level. Why demand a waiver? Don't claim you are poor. We know the situation in every alley and street. During the height of the epidemic you still had the money to buy a crystal hairpin for your young miss. How is it that in such a short time you suddenly have no money when you come to us? In the end, Sun Feng still refused to pay. The once refined, courteous scholar had been crushed by life until even his last shred of dignity was gone. Cursing and swearing, he stormed out of Wanji Hall. Mei Lin told me later. After the disturbance at the porridge station, he quit the silver shop to prove his integrity, but couldn't find any other suitable work. The clothes on his back are probably the last bit of face he has left. Even when his mother caught the epidemic a few days ago, he disappeared. He pawned his clothes and jewelry, then every few days he would put on the same outfit and loiter outside the Prime Minister's manor. Why not go every day? That pale fabric doesn't hide dirt well. He has to wash and change it often. The days he doesn't go are probably just waiting for the clothes to dry. Another month passed. I was finally permitted to lead apprentices out on house calls by myself. What puzzled the young apprentices was that, while treating patients, I persistently encouraged certain young women to come study at Wanji Hall. Sometimes their families noticed and grew displeased. A few times when I returned for follow-up visits, I was turned away at the door. I never grew angry. I simply spoke quietly to those young women. There was a place nearby where they could send word to me. I told them that if they ever made up their minds, they could send a word to me at any time, and I would come for them myself. At the same time, Wanji Hall began receiving several valuable gifts of unknown origin, all specifically addressed for me to accept. I knew they were from the Eastern Palace, so I immediately ordered them returned the moment they arrived. For anything that truly could not be sent back, I pawned it and used the silver to buy medicinal herbs for the entire hall, ensuring no one could utter even half a word of criticism. Sun Feng's hand injury grew worse by the day. In the end he scraped together enough money to come to me for an examination and medicine. He must have asked around and learned that the consultation fee I quoted brought almost no profit. Such a price could not be obtained anywhere else. I simply never expected Madame Sun to have the shamelessness to come all the way to my door on his behalf and propose taking me in as a concubine. Has she finally run out of patience? My son is still a third-place laureate after all. You started out as a lowly horse groom and now you're some woman physician who has handled who knows how many bodies. Even so, marrying into our family would still be a blessing beyond your station. Take good care of him. Manage the household peacefully. That is the fortune of any woman. No matter how good my temper was, I could not help laughing from sheer anger. Madam, are you afraid your son's hand will have more problems and he won't be able to pay the consultation fee anymore? Exposed by me, Madame Sun instantly flew into a rage, her face and ears flushing crimson exactly like her cowardly son. You cheap wench, don't be ungrateful. Our Feng is willing to take you as a concubine. That is your honor. That vicious face overlapped with the one that had tormented me in my previous life. Fresh grudges and old hatred intertwined and a trace of malice stirred in my heart. Madam, other than treating his illness, what exactly would taking me in accomplish? The person your son truly cares about is the Prime Minister's precious daughter. If he marries her, he will rise in rank and wealth with nothing left to worry about. A young miss has every right to refuse suitors at the door. That is only natural. But you are his elder. How could the Chen family dare show disrespect to you? You should think more for your son. Have the two families meet, settle the marriage early. Wouldn't that let you enjoy good days sooner? Madame Sun took the words to heart and stood there pondering deeply. She stopped her tirade, and I paid her no further attention. I turned and went inside the hall to continue my work. After packing several doses of medicine for a few households, I took advantage of the fine weather to bring out the bedding from my room and Mei Lin's to air and beat it until it was soft and fluffy. At dusk, Mei Lin came back from the market with a juicy piece of gossip. Madame Sun must have gone mad. This afternoon she dragged a matchmaker to the gates of the Prime Minister's manor, demanding the two families meet soon and finalize the engagement. Guess what happened? Right at that moment Chen Ha was walking out arm in arm with a man, and the two sides ran straight into each other. Madame Sun naturally did not recognize the crown prince. She immediately started cursing the pair as shameless adulterers and rushed forward to slap them, only to be blocked by the manor's guards. When Sun Feng heard the news and rushed over, he happened to see his mother being forced to her knees while Chen Ha looked terrified and nestled into the crown prince's arms. In this life he had never stepped foot inside the court, so he did not recognize the crown prince either. Seeing the woman he loved embraced by another man, he flew into a rage and swung his still healthy left arm to strike. But he was only a frail scholar after all. before the guards even moved. The crown prince knocked him to the ground with a single blow. As Sun Feng fell, he instinctively braced himself with his right hand and let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. A physician in the crowd examined him briefly afterward and declared that this time even medicine would be powerless to save it. Seeing her son suffer, Madame Sun suddenly burst with strength, breaking free from the guards and charging toward the two of them. "How dare you injure my son? I'll fight you with my life." Chen Hao could not dodge in time and was shoved to the ground. Blood immediately flowed beneath her. A child not even fully formed slipped away silently. Sun Feng's face went pale, then flushed red. He had known Chen Hao for so long yet had never truly touched her. Whose child was this? It did not need to be said. Madame Sun was so agitated she suffered an asthma attack on the spot and nearly lost half her life. Mei Lin recounted it all with relish while I listened and sighed. Indeed, in this life, every debt would be repaid. "Han Yao, aren't you angry?" I smiled and shook my head. "It's fine. I truly no longer care about that entire family. I won't deliberately inquire about their affairs anymore. I have all of you, that's enough. Everything else doesn't matter." So we turned the conversation to recent happenings in the hall. Who among the young apprentices showed real talent? Which families had diligent young misses who never rested? And who had angered the strictest master and been scolded mercilessly, only for that same master to secretly plead for him after the examination and secure 3 extra months of study for him in the hall. We chatted until just before bedtime, then each returned to our rooms. Mei Lin suddenly called me back, her voice unusually serious. "Han Yao, the head of Wanji Hall wants to see you tomorrow." I had met the head of Wanji Hall before. The person had always been elusive, like a dragon whose head you saw but never its tail. What astonished me was that she turned out to be a woman who looked to be in her early 30s, imposing without anger. The head did not meet people easily. I did not know why she wanted to see me. Suppressing my doubts, I bowed in greeting. She skipped all the pleasantries and went straight to the point. "Are you willing to enter the palace and serve as an official?" I was startled and looked up at her. She continued, "Han Yao, you have been at Wanji Hall for half a year now, working day and night without rest, putting in 10,000 times more effort than others. I have looked into your background. You used to be a horse groom's daughter. Yet you suddenly decided to come to Wanji Hall to study medicine. I want to know the reason." The matter of transmigration was too shocking for the world. I did not dare speak of it, nor did I know where to begin. After a long silence, I answered, "I once knew a young woman who lost feeling in half her body while saving someone. From then on she could no longer walk normally. She did not blame anyone much, but simply because she was a woman with no power or influence. An unwanted marriage fulfilled the debt of gratitude for the man she had saved. The world saw it as a fair exchange. Outside, everyone praised her husband for his noble character and righteousness in marrying a crippled little woman as his principal wife. Yet they all forgot that the crippling had been for his sake, turning her into a living monument of flesh and blood. Her husband rode that good reputation to a smooth and prosperous career, while she was trapped in the inner courtyard and died in depression." The head listened to my words, fell silent for a moment, then leaned forward slightly and spoke slowly, guiding me. "The female official system of our dynasty has only recently been opened. This path is currently in a period of great reconstruction. I can recommend you as a female physician in the palace. With your abilities, from now on you can rise in rank and title. The road ahead is wide open for you to walk. Countless men will kneel before your name. You will never have to worry about ending up like your friend. From now on you can completely control your own destiny." "Han Yao, don't you want that?" I bowed solemnly to the head once more. If I entered the palace for 5 or 10 years, I might be able to display my talents there and build a career. But I could not change the current situation for the vast majority of women. Besides me, there would still be countless young women like my friend, dragged unwillingly into invisible prisons. "Head, I have noticed that among the apprentices Wanji Hall accepts, most of those who study through the night without rest by lamplight are young women. Because if they cannot find a path here, besides marrying, they can only leave their hometowns alone. And the young women who can even sit in Wanji Hall are already among the lucky ones. Among the common people, there are still countless young women who cannot even reach the threshold of an opportunity to control their own destiny. Han Yao does not seek high office or generous salary, nor fame across the world. I only want a few more young women and common folk at the bottom to have the chance to decide their own fates. Her probing gaze lingered on me for a long time. Finally I heard her give a soft laugh, her tone softening considerably. I did not misjudge you. No more formalities. Sit down. I took the initiative to ask the head for the chance to travel outside. She said little, only assigning 2 highly skilled medicine apprentices with strong martial arts to accompany me, and also designating a female physician to travel with me. What secretly delighted me was that the female physician was none other than the doctor who had performed acupuncture on me in my previous life, Wang Zhu. While I was packing for the journey, Mei Lin asked if I still wanted to hear more gossip about the Sun household. I smiled and said, "If you really can't hold it in, go ahead and tell me." She chuckled twice and recounted that after Madame Sun's asthma attack, she now found it difficult even to get out of bed and take a few steps. Chen Hao had miscarried after being shoved in front of everyone. The entire Chen manor had lost all face. Prime Minister Chen had stood in court and accused the current third-place laureate Sun Feng of improper conduct, publicly seducing an unmarried young miss and bringing disgrace to the court officials. The emperor found it reasonable and lightly waved his hand. Sun Feng's title of third-place laureate was stripped just like that. He sold the Sun residence he had barely lived in and moved with his mother into a small commoner's house, rumored to be haunted. His mother had been bedridden with illness for a long time, becoming a living medicine jar. The family's money quickly ran out. Now their household had truly fallen to the level of poor commoners who could receive free treatment at Wanji Hall. But life involved more than just medicine and consultation fees. There was food, clothing, shelter, and travel. Wanji Hall could cover his mother's medicine and fees, but not his daily expenses. His days grew even more destitute. I listened with a sigh of emotion and continued handing over the households I had been responsible for. Unexpectedly, after just one night, rumors suddenly spread throughout the capital claiming that Sun Feng's hand injury had been deliberately caused by me. Sun Feng, who had long disappeared from sight, stepped forward to explain, saying that while I was still a horse groom I had secretly admired him. After countless attempts to win his love failed, I had deliberately caused chaos at the horse grounds that day, hoping to harm the woman in his heart. Unexpectedly I failed to hurt Chen Hao and injured him instead. That was why I had panicked and fled into Wanji Hall, to avoid the storm. He shouted himself hoarse at the street corner. The cheap woman Han Yao later resented me for losing my future because of my injured hand. Even when my mother kindly came to propose marriage she was driven away, causing her to be so agitated that she fell gravely ill and could not rise. I did not pay much attention. After all, the behavior of the Sun family and what I had done had been witnessed by everyone on every street and alley. I heard it clearly. I did not believe those few rumors could cover up what had truly happened. But I never expected the situation to develop beyond control, as if some hidden force was intervening, making the rumors surge like an avalanche. The spearhead was not aimed only at me, the entire Wanji Hall became a target of attack because of me. Many families, afraid of offending someone, would rather dig out a bit of food money to go to other clinics for treatment and medicine. They no longer dared let anyone from Wanji Hall step through their doors. Some stubborn elders even insisted on dragging their dying bodies along, refusing to let their children invite anyone from Wanji Hall no matter what. I sat inside the hall with a worried face as Yu Tong handed me a letter. On it was written, "Between your ambition and Wanji Hall, only one can exist." I did not want to implicate the entire Wanji Hall because of me alone, yet asking me to abandon the dream that was nearly within reach made me extremely unwilling. I went to find Sun Feng. "Right now Wanji Hall is still treating your mother for free. Why are you forcing things to this extent?" He shed tears. "I have no choice, I have no choice. We still need to eat and cover daily expenses. My right hand is completely crippled now, I have nothing left I can do." "That person is the Crown Prince, the Crown Prince." He said that as long as I followed his words and pushed all the rumors onto myself, he would give me enough silver and promise me a sinecure position sufficient to support myself. I had no other way. I looked at him in silence. He suddenly changed expression and said hatefully, "It's all because I deserved it. If you had saved me that day, none of the later events would have happened. I would have repaid you. No, I would have married you as my principal wife. That vicious woman Chen Hao would have had nothing to do with me anymore. I would have lived the rest of my life well with you." The last trace of pity in my heart instantly vanished. I left the dilapidated house without looking back. The plan to travel outside was temporarily set aside. I acted as if nothing had happened, continuing to examine patients and prescribe medicine for the few households that still allowed me through their doors, ignoring the pointing fingers along the road. The person coming for a follow-up visit now was an elderly woman living alone, suffering from a malignant tumor. Each flare-up brought unbearable pain. Neighbors sometimes said she had already lived long enough for her age. If she passed, it would be heaven's will. Others gossiped and mocked her. She could barely afford 3 meals a day. Why was she so diligent about seeking treatment? Did she want to live to 100 like others? But I knew she loved sweets, she said. This old woman has never been able to decide anything for herself in her entire life. Now I just want to give myself a few more days to taste the sweetness I never got to enjoy when I was young. Every time I brought her sweets, she would smile so hard her eyes disappeared. She would touch my face and laugh like a child. For that tiny bit of sweet hope, she was willing to struggle on with this terrible illness. After the examination, I left her house. The moment I stepped over the threshold, a raw egg smashed straight into my forehead. Yolk spilled out, releasing a nauseating stench. I looked up and recognized the father of one of the young misses I had helped enter Wanji Hall. The girl had just come of age when he had promised her to a butcher over 40. Heard that I had taken her away, he had shouted that she was so foolish she would never amount to anything. Once Wanji Hall kicked her out, he would still marry her off. The words had reached the girl's ears and frightened her nearly to madness. She had fainted from exhaustion several times. Reluctantly, I had quietly told her beforehand that even if her aptitude wasn't enough, if she fell into a situation like hers, Wanji Hall had ways to secretly escort the girls out of the capital. She truly was not suited for medicine. So at the beginning of this month she had made up her mind, taken her bit of travel money, and been led south by the person in charge. Her father could not find her and was forced to return the betrothal gifts, thus he harbored a grudge against me. This time he led the charge. While the egg white blurred my vision, he spat a thick wad of saliva right into my face. The crowd, like sheep that had found their leader, swarmed in imitation, picking up rotten vegetable leaves from the ground and hurling them at me. The old woman inside suddenly staggered out like a mother hen protecting her chick. She raised both hands and tried to shield me with her own body. Though her back was bent and she only reached my chest, I was terrified that the scene would aggravate her condition. I hurriedly tried to help her back inside, but she refused. Her dry eyes could no longer shed tears, only a trace of moisture lingered at the corners. She used all her strength to shout at the crowd. Han Yao is a good person. Wanji Hall is full of good people. No one cared about me before. I have suffered my whole life, but Han Yao and Wanji Hall gave me a little sweetness. What are you doing? What is this? What kind of world is this? I hugged her tightly in my arms. For the first time, my heart wavered. Perhaps I really should leave Wanji Hall. I shouldn't let this filth affect the people in the hall any further. Among them were those who had worked hard to graduate and others risking everything for their futures. In this world, far more people needed Wanji Hall than needed me. The crowd somehow dispersed. Mei Lin and Wang Zhu appeared before me, along with several commoners I had once treated. I remembered them. All of them were lonely and isolated. I must have looked truly miserable, because even the usually straightforward Mei Lin had reddened eyes. I let them escort me back to the hall. After cleaning up, I went alone to see the head. I submitted my resignation, saying I was willing to leave Wanji Hall. She said nothing, only stepped forward to brush my hair, picking off a leaf of rotten vegetables that had been missed. The emotions I had suppressed for so long fell with that leaf and suddenly erupted. I tried to hold back the sound but only lowered my head and wept. The head seemed to hesitate for a moment, then still pulled me into her arms. In the end I could no longer hold it in and burst into loud sobs. She patted my back patiently, waiting until I finished crying before she spoke. The households you were responsible for examining and treating. No need to worry about them anymore. I will find others to take over and make sure everything is arranged properly for you. Rest assured. For now, don't go outside. Stay peacefully in the hall. You can rest, or do something else, whatever you like. Han Yao, you see, we physicians treat not only the symptoms but the root. Some rotten sores must be dug deep to be cleaned out completely. I returned to my room in a daze and slept day and night without distinction for several consecutive days. Once I had recovered my spirit, I sat on the bed for a long time, thinking for several double hours. I still felt I absolutely had to leave. While I was packing my luggage, the door suddenly burst open with a bang. Mei Lin rushed in and hugged me tightly. Han Yao, you're all right now. We're all right now. The crown prince has been impeached. Hoarding smuggled salt, selling offices and titles, favoritism and breaking the law, treating human lives like grass. Memorial after memorial poured in like heavy snow, accusing the crown prince and landing on the emperor's desk. The source of this court, shaking wave had begun outside a side villa belonging to the crown prince. In a single night, dozens of young women's corpses had appeared there. Some were nothing but eerie white skeletons, others were so fresh they made one's skin crawl. All of them were more or less covered in mud, as if they had just been fished up from the bottom of a pond. Most importantly, on one of the skeletons was pinned a hair clasp that the missing daughter of the Minister of Justice had once worn. Its design was unique in the world. The number of onlookers grew. Somehow the news about the clasp quickly reached the minister's manor. The old madam in the manor was supported by her maids as she hurried over. The moment she saw the familiar clasp, her eyes widened and she nearly fainted. Then she forced herself awake and insisted on entering the villa herself to see clearly. The crown prince was not present in the manor, and the old madam looked as if she might faint at any moment. No one dared truly stop her. Thus she personally saw the lotus pond inside turned upside down in chaos, and confirmed that the corpses had indeed come from the crown prince's villa. The Minister of Justice had long been the crown prince's man. For years he had secretly manipulated countless unspeakable matters on the crown prince's behalf. From small court cases to large ones involving lives in prison, he was the smallest sharp blade of the Eastern Palace on the surface, yet the one stained with the most blood. Now he learned that the beloved daughter he had cherished like the apple of his eye had died in his master's own villa, and he saw his own mother so agitated she fell ill and could not rise. The Minister of Justice vomited blood in fury. That very night he dragged out every single crime the crown prince had committed over the years, treating human lives like trash, and organized them. The next day in court he wept blood as he publicly accused the prince, causing the entire court and country to erupt in uproar. The matter had happened too suddenly. The crown prince was caught completely off guard. In the grand hall he cried out his innocence nonstop. The emperor ordered him to confront the Minister of Justice, but too many crimes surfaced at once. Every defense was full of holes, leaving the crown prince drenched in sweat and momentarily speechless. The emperor flew into a rage and immediately ordered him confined to the Eastern Palace, while the Court of Judicial Review conducted a strict investigation. Many officials who had been suppressed by the crown prince rushed to submit memorials listing the Eastern Palace's crimes. Those who had once been the crown prince's wings now wanted only to save their own necks. Every one of them fell silent like quails, terrified the next blade would fall on their own throats. My own incident was filed under the crown prince's abuse of power to oppress others and forcibly taking commoner women. The moment the news spread, my reputation was instantly cleared. The commoners who had previously spat and cursed at me now brought all kinds of food and daily necessities to the gates of Wanji Hall. They said the crown prince had used their loved ones to threaten them. They had truly had no choice. Mei Lin refused to let the gifts cross the threshold. Instead she let each person enter one by one so they could apologize to me directly according to their wishes. It took great effort to send everyone away. The head herself came to my room, with Wang Zhu following behind her. The last commoner had just left and brushed past them. He did not know the head's identity and only respectfully clasped his hands, bowing deeply while repeating, "Good people stay safe." The head nodded in acknowledgement and walked toward me against the light. A pendant mutton, fat jade hung at her waist, glowing with a lustrous sheen. At the end of the tassel, the bright yellow embroidered pattern was especially eye-catching. In my previous life, when Wang Zhu had performed acupuncture on me, I had casually asked one question. Wanji Hall earns almost no income. I wonder what powerful figure stands behind it supporting everything. She had only smiled without answering, yet she had not said she didn't know. A year later I heard that Wanji Hall had been searched and sealed by the authorities. It was said that some imperial relatives had used Wanji Hall as a front to secretly conduct shady dealings, amassing no small amount of ill-gotten wealth. Those days the streets had been chaotic. I did not know the reason. Rarely, when Sun Feng returned to the residence I called him over to ask, and only then learned the full story. He had also told me that the ones who led the troops to search were the Crown Prince's faction. At the time I'd vaguely wondered where exactly Wanji Hall had gathered its wealth from. A place that saved lives and helped the world. Even if it were a little richer, wouldn't it be deserved? Wang Zhu had treated me for so long yet had never taken a single needle or thread from me. Perhaps because I had once asked such an unusual question. Sun Feng later brought me several other pieces of court news. He said the selection of the woman to be sent for the peace marriage had been debated endlessly in the palace. In the end it had been decided on Princess Jingju, the only daughter of the current eldest Princess Yu Tong. The princess had feared all kinds of animals since childhood, yet now she was to be sent to the grasslands. The eldest princess was utterly unwilling, but state affairs came first. Under the collective persuasion of the court officials, her efforts were like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. In truth, that small border country posed no real threat compared to our dynasty's military strength. But the Ministry of War was the Crown Prince's faction. A real war would inevitably damage the nation's foundation. Sacrificing one woman or fighting one battle had never been a question requiring choice in the eyes of some people. Princess Jingju was bestowed the title of princess and sent far away for the peace marriage. Less than a month after the wedding, news came that the princess had suddenly died. The eldest princess's heart turned to ashes. She followed her daughter with a length of white silk. But in this life, because of me the Crown Prince had moved against Wanji Hall early. At the time he had only regarded Wanji Hall as some organization run by an unknown noble in the common world. He had not taken it seriously and had casually struck out, merely to force a powerless commoner woman to bow her head before him. Who would have thought that the mysterious head of Wanji Hall was actually the current eldest Princess Yu Tong? The eldest princess had long secretly gathered a great deal of evidence of the Crown Prince's heinous crimes. She had only lacked the right opportunity to light the fuse. This time everything had gone so smoothly largely thanks to Wang Zhu. I was astonished. Wang Zhu, why? The eldest princess gestured with her hand. Wang Zhu lifted her long hair and turned her back, revealing a faint scar at the join between her nape and scalp. Wang Zhu was the missing only daughter of the Minister of Justice. Normally she disguised her appearance whenever she met people. The eldest princess took Wang Zhu's hand and patted it gently as she spoke. She is a clever girl. As she grew up, she realized early on the vicious actions of her father. In the entire manor, aside from her, almost no one's hands were free of innocent blood. At first she came to Wanji Hall to study medicine with the determination to leave the manor behind once she succeeded. After completing her studies she returned to the manor for a period, secretly copying numerous pieces of evidence of the crimes between the minister's manor and the Eastern Palace from her father's study. Then she staged a disappearance and fled back to Wanji Hall. This time, seeing the situation, she was furious beyond measure and came up with this plan. Using the clasp that could prove her identity, she made the minister and the Eastern Palace tear into each other. Only then could we successfully topple the Crown Prince. I looked at Wang Zhu. Her face remained calm as a light breeze and drifting clouds. I took her other hand. I think the Minister of Justice, in such a filthy environment, must have poured an enormous amount of love into raising his daughter to grow up pure and untainted. That love had nurtured a young woman who understood good and evil, right and wrong, and how to choose and let go. Yet having grown up in such a muddy swamp, her heart must have endured countless rips and struggles. In the end, between the grace of upbringing and the greater righteousness, she had made the hardest choice. For the sake of the country she forgot her family. She was an extraordinarily great person. By the time all the Crown Prince's crimes had been fully determined, it was already half a year later. Half of the 3 departments and 6 ministries had been replaced. The previously obscure and unknown 6th prince now quietly revealed his talent on the court stage. The eldest princess said, "The 6th prince is a good child with potential. He is steady, able to endure hardship, and though he learns things a little slower than others, what is precious is his loyal heart. It's just that he truly isn't skilled at schemes and power plays. In the past he was suppressed by the Crown Prince until he had no room to display himself, and he had few chances to appear before His Majesty. But fortunately that very fact became a blessing in disguise. Only because of it could he live safely and obscurely right under the Eastern Palace's nose until now. The Crown Prince carried several major capital crimes. Each and every one, according to the law, warranted execution. He knelt and begged the emperor in a hoarse voice to remember their father-son bond from years past, but the eyes of the entire world were watching. Whether for the sake of imperial authority or for the sake of the common people, in the end he was sent to the afterlife with a cup of poisoned wine. With the old crown prince's faction no longer blocking the way, the border country once again shamelessly demanded a royal woman for a peace marriage. The court officials swarmed forward, declaring that the small barbarian nation was nothing to fear. They submitted memorials requesting the court to dispatch armored cavalry to flatten those petty jesters. The emperor approved. I requested permission from the eldest princess to join the army as a military physician. The eldest princess removed the Hessian jade pendant from her waist and gave it to me, saying that if I encountered any difficult problems outside, I could present this jade pendant at any government office or post station. Before setting out, the common people in the capital, led by someone unknown, reflected deeply on the chain of events involving old Crown Prince Sun Feng, Chen Hao, and me, piecing together the true story. Thus the Prime Minister Chen's manor became the most despised place in the world. Every time the manor gates opened and anyone stepped onto the street, they had to endure contemptuous stares and mocking laughter from passersby. The Chen family had originally intended to rely on the old crown prince and had therefore tolerated all of Chen Hao's excessive behavior. Now that the old crown prince had perished overnight, the Chen family had exhausted every effort just to barely preserve their own safety. Their foundation had suffered severe damage. Under the brilliant achievements of the left Prime Minister Dai, almost no one on the court mentioned Prime Minister Chen's name anymore. Chen Hao had played no small role in the incident that caused the manor to lose all face. Prime Minister Chen had always treated his daughters like goods waiting for the right price. Now that he had lost power outside, he vented all his resentment into the inner courtyard. One day, in a moment of carelessness, he ruthlessly drowned his own daughter in a basin of water. The court officials were furious at this beastly act and submitted memorials impeaching him. Thus the emperor issued a decree. Prime Minister Chen was granted death, and the Chen manor was confiscated. As for Sun Feng, amid the spit and contempt of the entire world, he left the capital with his mother. When he departed, he carried only a small, old cloth bundle on his person. At this point, all the people and grudges from the tragedy of my previous life had lowered their curtains one by one. I looked out the window and saw the sun setting behind the layered rooftops. The twilight glow was also like the early morning. The days following the army were much shorter than I had imagined. The moment the Mahdi forces saw our armored cavalry, their knees went soft. Before the battle could even begin, white surrender flags rose across the grasslands. The army stayed to handle the aftermath while I, accompanied by 2 guards, wandered among the various tribes. I discovered that medicine and herbs here were even more primitive than in the most remote villages back home. The local shamans who rang bells while treating patients often carried an air of fatalism. Yet the shamanistic elements mixed into their medicine held an entirely different philosophy from the Central Plains medical system. If carefully integrated and applied, they could produce double the effect with half the effort for many intractable diseases. I sent a letter back to Wanji Hall, telling the eldest princess that I wished to remain on the grasslands a while longer to explore and observe. The eldest princess knew and said nothing more, only sending the 2 martial medicine apprentices to follow me. 2 months later the army returned to the capital. I led the apprentices across this land, practicing medicine while learning. Another half-year passed, and Wang Zhu came to my side as well. She said she had grown up in the capital her entire life, and had always felt her vision and thinking were too narrow, so she too wanted to go out and see a bit. She also told me that under the 6th prince's assistance, the capital now enjoyed favorable weather and a prosperous, peaceful nation. Most commoners could live and work in contentment, and the number of poor people was decreasing day by day. Wanji Hall had gradually become no different from an ordinary clinic. Therefore more and more masters in the hall wanted to go to farther places like me to broaden their horizons. You are everyone's role model. Oh, and Han Yao. Mei Lin misses you very much. She asked me to tell you that several new specialty restaurants have opened in the capital. When you return, she will treat you to a meal. Besides practicing medicine daily, I occasionally help deliver foals, leaving the herdsmen clicking their tongues in amazement. A little girl whose Central Plains tongue was still clumsy asked me, "Big sister, are all the doctors outside as amazing as you?" I smiled and answered, Big sister used to be a horse groom, so that's why I know this. She was astonished. A horse groom girl can become a doctor who saves people. Then can I do it too? I looked into her sparkling eyes. Those small pupils reflected my own figure, as well as the endless blue sky behind me. Of course you can. But you don't necessarily have to become a great doctor. What kind of person do you want to be? The little girl shyly twisted the hem of her clothes and said she wanted to become the best cook on the grasslands. Those uncles cook with big knives and big gestures, but it's not as good as what my mother makes. Mother tears rabbit meat into shreds and roasts each part over different fires, so some places are juicy and others are crispy. I like my mother's meat the most. Then she lowered her head a little sadly. But being a cook doesn't sound as useful as being a doctor. Doctors can save lives, cooks only make people eat. I squatted down and spoke to her seriously. People only look for doctors when they're sick, but eating is something that has to be done every single day. If the cook is skilled, they can make every person who eats feel happy. If all 3 meals a day are happy, then the whole day is happy. If every day is happy, then it's a happy lifetime. So cooks are also extremely, extremely important, right? She asked me with full anticipation. Can I do it? I stroked her head and told her, of course you can. We can become whoever we want to become. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.